When Russia and Belarus closed its airspace to virtually everyone else but themselves and China, one airline in Europe was affected the most. In this episode, we dive into Finnair and see how they've circumvented this issue and the effect it has had on their operations. Today, they are flying me from Stockholm to London the long way via Helsinki.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be.
G'day everyone and welcome back to my video. It is time for me to say haters via as I depart to country number 5 in this travel series. So I'm coming to you from Stockholm Arlanda International Airport and I am joining Finnair as I fly them from here in Stockholm to Helsinki and then to London. So come along with me and let's see what the experience is like on Finnair on these short European hops. Let's do this!
Everybody just do your thing.
If you're new to my channel, my name's Ryan. Born and bred in Singapore, I now call Australia home, and I create heaps of travel and food-related content. This trip sees us set foot in 5 countries over the course of 2.5 weeks. We stop in China for a first glimpse into an often misunderstood country. And then we set off to the UK, where we'd spend most of our time in Scotland as part of a wedding party. And what an eventful week that was! We then make our way towards Scandinavia, stopping in Denmark, and I pay homage to Sweden, because every person alive needs to visit the ABBA Museum and know that the meatballs you have in IKEA taste nothing like the ones in Sweden. We make a brief stop in Finland before heading back to the UK for our extremely long flight back home. This travel series will be filled with flight reports, destination vlogs, and a train journey thrown in for good measure. And these videos will be linked in the description as and when they're published. So make sure you hit the subscribe and the bell icon so you won't miss the next episode coming up. Giving me a like is a good way to support my channel. So here's the thanks because it's very much appreciated. Welcome to Arlanda Airport's Terminal 2. Gosh, this interior has a face only a mother could love, because it looks pretty dated and ugly. Well, I think it does. The original intent of this terminal was for the domestic operations of Scandinavian airlines. SAS soon outgrew this terminal, so today it is used for regional flights within Schengen destinations, as well as flights to the UK by British Airways. So it does have immigration facilities built in as well. Our journey was off to a rocky start. Having arrived some 3 hours before our departure time, thinking it would be a great buffer just in case something happened, the situation went from this calm-looking environment to a cluster shit show of a ground handler who could not tame the monster of a couple of growing issues with passengers checking in.
An hour, 10 minutes. This is how long that we've been standing here. They had one agent for the longest time, but everyone that is coming through all seems to have a problem. Either they're overweight or either they have battery packs in their check-in, so you can't really blame the check-in agents, but it's just created this whole backlog of queue behind me. It's, an hour, 10 minutes. This is how long it's taken for us to come to the front of the line. And we've been at the front of the line for the last, 20, 25 minutes, and it's not moving at all because people keep cutting in, people with problems before they keep cutting in to re-check in again, so it repeats the whole process all over again, so it's very, very slow.
Anyway, eventually we got checked in, sent our bags through, and received our boarding passes for all sectors, with our final destination being London's Heathrow Airport. Finnair was our choice for this positioning flight to London, as we come to the tail end of our trip. Finnair was founded in 1923, making it one of the oldest airlines still flying today. The original name of this carrier was Aero Osaketyo, which explains the company code of AY, which is still in use till this day. Airside at Terminal 2 really isn't very large. I mentioned in the beginning of this video that it was constructed in 1990 specifically for Scandinavian Airlines domestic flights. To be more specific, it was constructed to turn around the airline's MD-80 aircraft in quick time, allowing passengers to arrive 10 minutes before departure, board and fly off. It wasn't designed for passengers to hang around on a Sunday stroll. Perhaps this is why floor space is a premium. So all it takes is for a couple of narrow-body departures to turn this area into a jostling, heaving weekend market. Therefore, we sought the tranquility of a cafe upstairs for a quiet cuppa before our flight arrived. In 1946, the Finnish government acquired a majority stake in Aero Osaketyo. This set in place to the eventual name change to Finnair in 1953, and is today one of the most recognizable Finnish brands in the world, up there with Nokia, Angry Birds and the Moomins. With over 20 daily flights operated by 3 airlines, Arlanda to Helsinki is this airport's 4th busiest route. Finnair and SAS operate about 8 to 9 return flights each, with the remainder operated by Norwegian Air, a low-cost airline. And here's our aircraft pulling in from Helsinki over 30 minutes late. This would be interesting, seeing how our original transit time for our next flight to London is only about 60 minutes. And this has definitely raised my heartbeat by a few notches. Finnair is one of the few remaining European legacy carriers with a rather respectable global reach. Their first transatlantic flight touched down in New York from Helsinki in 1969, and their intercontinental expansion has just been going on ever since. For their regional service within Finland and Europe, Finnair has a fleet of Embraer E190s, ATR 72 props, and the entire family of Airbus A320 aircraft, except the A318. This afternoon, the chariot assigned for flight AY814 from Stockholm Arlanda to Helsinki Vantaa is Oscar Hotel Lima Zulu Papa, an Airbus A321-200 series, which first flew in April 2017, making her just under 7.5 years old at the time of writing. Flight attendants greeting us were all incredibly warm, at least the ones at the door. This Airbus A321 has a capacity which fluctuates around the lower 200s configured in a standard 3x3. That's because business class in Europe is really these economy seats with the middle one blocked off. And we have a divider which moves back and forth depending on demand to determine where business class ends and the beginning of working class, economy class. For this first sector to Helsinki, we were seated in row number 12 on the right-hand side. As this is a very full flight, let's get settled ASAP. Finnair regional configuration includes a sizable fold-down tray table and this contraption here to place your device. I am assuming IFE is streamed directly to your device of choice. But there were strangely no charging options like a universal power outlet or a USB port. Unless I'm blind, but I really did not see one. Seat recline for this extremely thin seat back was actually rather decent. There are no adjustable headrests though. There's Wi-Fi available for a fee, but I think we should all learn to disconnect once in a while. We pushed back some 33 minutes late, and by then, the next flight to Helsinki, AY816, had already arrived next to us. So we better get our butts in the air toot sweet, please. We were soon airborne and bidding a reluctant goodbye to beautiful Sweden, destined for a flight path to take us across the Baltic Sea towards the direction of Helsinki Vantaa Airport. Although the block time is just under an hour, we're really only airborne for less than 40 minutes to cover this distance of a little under 400 kilometers. Aviation geeks like me are a very unique bunch of people. We fly a specific airline on a given route for very different reasons when compared to others. Peggy next door might choose this flight because it's the cheapest. Bob down the road could be on board because this timing suits him best. For me, the main reason for choosing Finnair for this positioning flight back to London was all because of this: the signature blueberry juice. For the Finns, blueberry has always been a natural part of their daily diet, and it supposedly grows wild all over the forests. For me, this novelty box has been ticked for this very short sector, and there was barely enough time to do much buy on board sales by the crew. Despite that, they were all extremely cordial as they hurriedly passed out paper cups of water, coffee, tea, and this Moorish purple heavenly nectar. To understand why Finnair is perhaps the only airline in Europe with such a huge presence in Asia, we look at the geographical location of Helsinki from the perspective of a round globe. Drawing a straight line from Vantaa Airport through Russia speedily takes you to North Asia. At its peak, Finnair touched down in 7 airports in China, 6 airports in Japan and South Korea, and we have not even talked about their network covering destinations in India, Sri Lanka, Thailand and Singapore. As a sixth freedom carrier, Finnair thrived on flying passengers back and forth between Europe and these destinations via Helsinki, because their advantage was being the fastest airline to Europe from these Asian destinations. But all that was about to drastically change from 2022. One of the pieces of the puzzle which contributed to Finnair's success story is Helsinki Vantaa Airport. There is none of the confusion and complexity of Paris Charles de Gaulle. There is also none of that cumbersome, rusty third world setup that is London Heathrow Airport. Vantaa Airport is one location purely designed for transit. And we're about to put them to the test as our delayed flight began its final approach. And let's see how seamless this process will be with our original 60 minutes transit time now reduced to 25 minutes. Welcome to Helsinki Vantaan lentoasema. This embarkation was a little unique. Even though this aircraft was docked to an aero bridge at the building, it was a non-Schengen terminal. So we were ushered towards the rear door to disembark via stairs to waiting buses. For those in business class expecting priority, they were the last to get off the aircraft. Oh, the irony. By the time everyone was on the bus and we got going, we now had just under 15 minutes to get to our next flight. On one hand, my pulse was going off like a jackhammer from the thought of missing my connection. On the flip side, I thought, hang on, this was all booked as a single journey. Surely Finnair would organize a hotel if we missed the London flight. I honestly would not mind an unplanned stay in Helsinki. And now, the running began. Looking back at the footage, it's hard not to be amazed by how pretty Vantaa Airport is. But at that moment, admiring this amazing structure was the last thing on our minds. After getting our bearings and determining where our next departure gate was, there was immigration to navigate. But it was thankfully pretty empty at that time of the evening. We passed a second information board later on, and that was when we realized we did not have to run after all.
Okay, it was really tiring. After all the running, it turns out the flight is delayed anyway, the flight to London, so we can breathe a little. Oh my god, I'm so breathless. Yeah, and it's good to know that the bags will make it as well, since the London flight is delayed. So let's go. Now that I've been stamped out of EU, let's head to the gate and go to London. Let's do this.
Boarding was in full swing by the time we arrived at gate 52. Priority passengers have long been sent through, and general boarding was now in its final stages. As I got closer to the aircraft, it dawned on me why the London flight was delayed. After running that half marathon around this beauty of an airport terminal, we were boarding the same bloody aircraft. Why, of course we are, because this is a non-Schengen gate. Remember when I mentioned about the moving divider earlier on to draw the line between business and economy classes? On this flight, it has been moved several rows forward, so we ended up in row number 8, still on the right-hand side though. Why did I choose this side? Well, you'll understand later as we approach Heathrow Airport. Since we are now seated between doors 1 and 2, it meant the legroom is exceptional. Summer is an excellent time to be flying in this region, since the sun never sets. Taking off from runway 22, this heading would take us roughly towards Stockholm, where we departed from earlier on. After leaving Scandinavia, we journey over the North Sea before coasting into the UK, where we'd make a merry-go-round over the skies of London before landing in Heathrow Airport, clocking a distance of just over 1,820 kilometers and a flight time of 2 hours 50 minutes. With a longer flight time, we could now look into the in-flight menu to purchase a few items just to get a feel of what Finnair is all about. Hubby went to this take on a cheese board, and my eyes zoomed into a curious item. Finnish curry noodles. Say what? Yes, apparently chicken curry is a thing in Finland. Kanaviloki is a common food item in Finnish kitchens, and on this flight, we get a version of it specially created by the Finnair in-flight kitchen. I certainly wasn't expecting a generous amount of chicken in there. Let's face it, this is a paper cup of instant noodles with dehydrated vegetables and pasta. But you know what? It tasted alright. It's like trying to satisfy a midnight hunger pang as you look into your dry pantry for something to eat. Now I'm curious to try the actual version on the ground. This is definitely a good reason for me to return to Helsinki. As the world came out of the smoldering ruins of COVID-19, Finnair found itself facing a double whammy. Its large market in China was now a shadow of its former self. That country remained shut to the outside world for far longer than others. And now that it has opened up, international outbound traffic hasn't exactly rebounded to pre-COVID levels, with the Chinese preferring to travel domestically. As if Finnair needed any more headwind. In February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and as a consequence of that, the airspace over Russia has been closed ever since to anyone opposed to the war. And that's pretty much all of the Western world, including countries within the European Union. Therefore, Finnair has now lost its access to expeditious flight paths over Russia towards Asia. So they have also lost the advantage of being the fastest airline to Europe. As a result of the airspace closure, This is the extent of Finnair's network to Northern Asia today. Shanghai and Hong Kong in China, Nagoya, Osaka, Haneda and Narita in Japan, and Incheon in South Korea. Together with Delhi, Bangkok and Singapore, these rounds up their entire Asian operations, which is a far cry from 2019. Flights from that region now meander their way about Russia, flying into Western Europe before making the northerly trek towards Helsinki, making these flights an average of 30 to 40% longer than normal. Unsurprisingly, Finnair's Asian traffic has been reduced by over 51% compared to 2019, hitting the airline's financial well-being very hard. It's anyone's guess how long will Western airlines be shut out of Russian airspace. And with the Ukrainian war not having any end in sight, Finnair has needed to urgently pivot its operations. With so many surplus wide-body aircraft, what was the airline to do? For starters, at the end of 2022, Finnair started flying their A330s to Doha, not just from Helsinki, but from Copenhagen and Stockholm as well, taking advantage of their generous aviation bilateral agreements with the Scandinavians. From Doha, Qatar Airways would then fly Finnair passengers onwards towards their destination from Hamad International Airport. From February 2024, some of Finnair's A330s have ended up halfway around the world in Sydney, Australia with Qantas. Their Oneworld partner has leased a couple of these birds to fly half of their flights from Sydney to Singapore and Bangkok. So that's a lot of flights for Qantas customers to experience the unique in-flight hardware of this Nordic airline, which in more ways than one is several notches above the Flying Kangaroo. These lease agreements are now valid till 2028. Because of the airspace closure, a lot of these routes are now so long, the A330s are no longer suitable to handle some of these flights because of range limitations. Losing such a huge, significant chunk of their market share in Asia, you'd think Finnair would take a huge financial hit. This pivot of productively redeploying their A330s and by refocusing their attention to Middle East, transatlantic and European traffic has allowed Finnair to not only maintain its head above water, but they've also managed to repay their COVID debt back to the Finnish government. But the fact remains, the geographical advantage of Vantaa Airport on top of the globe was now more of a hindrance. As Finnair continues to rebalance its network into 2024 and beyond, there's no denying how they've impressively overcome these challenges purely by pivoting. I'm sure this will be taught in lectures around the world, the need to be flexible and nimble, especially in the world we live in today, where your great selling point of being the fastest airline to Europe can disappear in a blink of an eye. As we admire the view of London at dusk, it's time for us to prepare for arrival and draw this video to a close. And well guys, so that was all my flights done with Finnair today. It was a pretty long drawn day of travel, pretty eventful. So I've just settled into my hotel here at London Heathrow Airport Terminal 4. I'm staying at the Holiday Inn Express behind me. So tomorrow I get on a long flight halfway across the world to take me back to Australia, so make sure you stay tuned to that one. Once it is published, it will be linked in the description below, so if you do not want to miss that, make sure you hit the subscribe and the bell notification icon. And of course, I've also added my Instagram on your screen right now, so make sure you hit me up there and chuck me a follow so you can actually see where am I traveling to in real time. So in the meantime, take care all of you, and I will see you for my next video. Bye!